which is the Graham Muslim Sunday Times.
One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2. Can you hear me? 1, 2. Can you hear me? Okay.
Responderele anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is fine.
Good afternoon, South Africa. Good afternoon to those who are connected to our platforms in the region, the continent, and also other countries outside. Welcome to this government briefing on the updates that's taking place in our country, South Africa. We are going to get an update from the Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Khumbudzo. Minister.
Good afternoon. The SAPS have not revised the number of deaths in Gauteng. Therefore, the number of deaths in Gauteng remains at 79, and in KwaZulu-Natal, the number has been revised downward from 258 to 251, as some deaths that were previously included were not related to the unrest. The number of deaths is revised when there is a positive confirmation that the death is related to the incident, and when those who were injured succumb to their injuries, as we explained yesterday. And given the nature and extent of the deaths and in the country and in the provinces, police are continuously checking backwards and forwards to make sure that they have full confirmation that the deaths are indeed related. And in terms, then that's why the number keeps on being revised upward. It doesn't mean they are new deaths. Sometimes it's either the bodies that are discovered in the mortuaries can be linked to their death, or somebody who is injured is then linked to died, and therefore the number goes on. And somebody who are thought to have died, who have been identified and clarified not having died during the unrest. And of the reported deaths in Gauteng to date, the breakdown according to subs per district are as follows. Medas in Sidibeng is 4, Johannesburg is 11, Ekurhuleni is 27, and the total murder cases of Gauteng are 42. And in inquests that are related to Gauteng, Sidibeng is 3, Johannesburg 12, Ekurhuleni 22. The total inquest dockets opened in Gauteng is 37. To date, there are no deaths reported in Tshwane and in the West Rand. Of the 251 deaths reported in KwaZulu-Natal to date, the breakdown per district is as follows. Medas, Amajuba 1, Herigwala 3, Umzinyati 3, Umkanyakude 3, Kinqechayo 6, Ilembe 8, Ugu 9, Umgungundlovu 20, eThekwini 110. The total cases of murder in KwaZulu-Natal are 163. Inquests in KwaZulu-Natal is Umkanyakude 1, Kinqechayo 2, Umzinyati 3, Amajuba 3, Ugu 4, Herigwala 7, Umgungundlovu 15, and eThekwini 52. The total inquest dockets for KwaZulu-Natal are 87, and there's one case of culpable homicide reported in KwaZulu-Natal. when a person was run over by a vehicle during the looting spree. To date, there are no deaths reported in uThukela and Zululand districts. And in terms of arrests that are related to the murders, 5 additional people were arrested for the unrest-related murders in KwaZulu-Natal, and bringing the total arrests for the murders to 20. The 5 additional arrests are in connection to the murders in Phoenix. And there are no new updates on the arrest of the instigators and the key role players in the unrest. Given that the security situation has stabilized, these security updates will now be held once a week to allow the police and everybody to focus at the work at hand. And on the question of the Transnet IT infrastructure breach, the IT breach at Transnet is still regarded as an unrelated event to the unrest. Transnet is seized with activities to restore full operations, and it is expected that Transnet Freight and Rail will be operational later today. Minister Pravin Gordhan, together with the management of Transnet, earlier today met with industry players affected by the disruption of Transnet operations to explain measures being undertaken to restore operations and prevent future attacks. On vaccinations, the Acting Minister of Health, Mamluko Kubai, is currently in KwaZulu-Natal to assess the impact of the unrest on both the vaccination program and the healthcare services in general, to enable the department to support the province on a catch-up program. We continue to remind South Africans not to buy stolen medicines, as it may be contaminated and dangerous to their health. In addition, the Acting Minister of Health has announced that the EVDS system has now been enhanced to allow self-scheduling for South Africans to schedule their own appointments instead of waiting for SMS appointments. You can now schedule yourself for vaccination, and that walk-ins at all vaccination sites are allowed, and there are guidelines that have been provided for the vaccination sites to deal with walk-ins. The elderly will continue to be supported with scheduled appointments and given preference at vaccination sites in cases of walk-ins, where they do walk-ins as elderly, and same priority for will be given to persons with disabilities in areas where they have done walk-ins. Government once more extends its appreciation to the partnership with the private sector that has allowed South Africa to reach over 250,000 vaccines administered a day since this week. By yesterday, the country had reached over 6 million South Africans that have been vaccinated. As of next week, we plan to commence with economic intervention package briefings with the economic cluster ministers, and this will follow after the President has addressed the nation this Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, for the update and also the announcements that, Minister, you made, that the economic cluster will brief next week, but also the good news of the Sunday. Thank you very much, Minister. I will then invite questions to check first in the press room if there are questions. Thank you very much, Minister. There are no questions in the press room. We will then go to our online questions. Tagalani, can you take us through the online questions?
No, thank you. On the online questions, the first question is from Zwandile Mbenje from the SABC. And the question is, who is taking accountability on what has happened? More than 300 lives lost already. Are we likely to see the Commission of Inquiry into so many deaths? In Marikana, where an even fewer number of deaths happened, we saw the inquiry. And the second 3 questions are from Spelele, from Business Report. And the first question is, can the Minister clarify why the death toll keeps on increasing days after calm was being restored in KZN and Gauteng? And the second question is, what are the developments on the investigation around the remainder of the 12 instigators who have not been arrested and remain at large. And the following question: have the 2 police officers from Protea Glen who were arrested with looted goods at their homes been suspended, or they are still reporting for duty, or is there any internal disciplinary process against them? And we have Sihle Mlambo from IOL, and the question is, with the 100th murder dockets being investigated, is IPID investigating any of these? If so, how many and where?
Thank you very much. I think let's go with that first batch first. Minister, that's the first batch of questions. I hope the ones that will be going for will be the last one.
Thank you. There was a question on who's taking accountability for the deaths and whether we'll see a commission of inquiry on the deaths. The first part is that the deaths, as we are reporting them, we're reporting them with proper classification of murder, which is being investigated. So those who have murdered people will be arrested, and already the country and the international community is fully aware that we are investigating those who are responsible for instigating this unrest so that they can be held accountable and liable for the loss of life, loss of property, and all the other sufferings that they've visited this country. And I would like to explain the process of establishing a commission of inquiry. A commission of inquiry is established when the facts at hand are not known to say who is liable. In this instance, the police and law enforcement agencies in general feel confident that they are fully aware of the facts at hand and they will be able to hold those accountable to be held liable. And therefore, for now, we are not considering a commission of inquiry. Depending on the progress that will be achieved with the matter, then the president will decide whether to institute a commission of inquiry. But that will be based on facts and if there is uncertainty on other facts related to the matter. Then there was a question on the death toll, which changes. I think I've clarified that in the statement, and the statement will provide the further details if there's no clarity. I've also clarified that there are no new updates as relates to the instigators and key players with the unrest. And there was a question around the 2 police officers arrested with looted goods. It's standard procedure that when such arrests are made, they will then be suspended and will be put through a disciplinary process. And there was a question of whether the investigations of the deaths or the murders are including is the IPID activated. And the question is indirectly asking if there are people who have been murdered by the police and therefore the IPID, as per law, it's activated to investigate. So far, there's not been a determination of whether IPID is necessary for those investigations. Currently, the police are still investigating on their own. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the responses. We are taking the very last batch of questions, and I think we'll be calling it a day. Takalani?
Thank you. Our last 2 questions, Minister. The first is from Sumen Naidu, and the question is, as the spokesperson of government, can the Minister please explain why the Minister of Education will be speaking before the President announcement, which breaks the normal protocol of when ministers speak following the President announcement? And the last question, still from Sumen, and why has government not declared a period of national mourning for the lives lost, or a national day of prayer, as done many times, to follow the country to reflect and heal from the unrest? Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Minister. This brings us to the end of the questions that we have, and thank you very much to take the last ones.
Thank you. Let's start with the issue around the National Day of Mourning or National Day of Prayer. As you are aware, the numbers of those who passed on during this unrest is still being revised. So if you call the National Day of Prayer earlier, we will not have other families when their loved ones are then recorded as part of the deceased will feel excluded. So it's always proper to allow a full investigation or scale to be accepted. And where we are, the president will determine whether to call a National Day of Mourning or a National Day of Prayer, but he will decide based on the progress that the law enforcement agencies make in terms of accounting for the deaths and also the consultations with stakeholders, including traditional leaders, interfaith leaders, and other social partners that government work on what is the best approach as a nation towards our healing. And maybe let me say, on behalf of government, we continue to wish those who have died unnecessarily so, that their souls, may they rest in peace, and those who are in hospital, who are injured, must find recovery and come back to life. We are not happy when the numbers keep on being revised upwards because more people have died. We are also praying as part of government to make sure that the police find all the bodies that may not have been recovered, that may be lying in all sorts of places, to be recovered so that we can have closure as a country, we can bring healing as a country. And on the question of Minister Motshekga speaking before the president, I do not know who has established that protocol. The ministers speak to address matters, and what we don't want to do as government is to crowd the messages. If you recall, the president, when last he addressed the nation around level 4 lockdown, he indicated that schools will reopen on, I think it's Monday, the 26th. And therefore, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Education, Minister Motshekga, must come and brief the nation and the country on parents to make sure that they can then engage with preparing for the reopening of schools. You recall that this is after an extensive vaccination program for educators in our country and those who are participating in the sector. And if the minister has to wait for Monday, which is the day where the schools have to be reopening, how will parents then prepare for their learners to go back to school? But the announcement she's dealing with is the announcement that has already been made by the president. Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend and stay safe. Mask up, wash up, keep your distance. To the national group, 35 to 49, we are happy that you are vaccinating. The rate that we move from 4 million to 6 million, it's amazing. Keep on the numbers, keep on pushing. We've got 10 million of you more to vaccinate. We are looking for you to come through so that we can reach the herd immunity that our country needs. And you call yourself the economic class. Let's see the economic class doing it for our economy so that we avoid further lockdowns. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We would proceed with the briefings next week. And your message, Minister, is receiving attention. I am masking up. Thank you. This media briefing is adjourned.